Hi everybody, my name's Nari Green and I am the Expo midwife here. I am also a mother of two as well as a grandmother of one. So today we're going to be talking about settling, sleeping and wakefulness in your newborn baby. So that's when you come from hospital, you come home and it's that first few weeks and it's quite overwhelming to start with. You just go through the front door and then what next? And there's nobody there to help you immediately, so it's a little bit of using a lot of your natural instincts to go through. So we start with what is normal, and normal is different for everybody because even your lifestyle. You could have shift workers in your family, you're up more at night than you're during the day. And so your baby has to fit into your family life and get into a good routine. So it's normal for a baby to sleep a lot. Some babies sleep between 9 or 10 hours in a 24-hour period. Others sleep up to 18 hours. So it is very individual. Some babies need that extra sleep. So they can fall asleep quite easily, the newborn babies, anywhere that they're feeling tired. So it is normal for a baby to sleep a lot. It is also normal for a baby to cry. So the baby's cry is their form of communication with us. That's their way of letting us know that they're hungry, and you kind of think, when was the last feed? It's a way of letting them say, I might be too hot, too cold. So you just think about what they're wearing or even what you're wearing. Is it similar to your what the baby's wearing? How hot is your house? You know, if you've got air conditioning on, is there a draft? Does my nappy need changing? You know, they might be just uncomfortable for that. So that when they cry, they're saying something's wrong. Even making sure that their clothing is on properly so that their little fingers or their thumbs aren't bent back or anything. And because we put babies to sleep on their back now, just making sure that all their clothing on their back when they're lying is nicely pulled tight so there's no bumps and that for them so that they can be comfortable. And it's very normal for some babies to need settling. So we just it's a natural instinct. You have a look around, somebody picks up a baby and they just start to rock. They start to maybe just pat the baby's bottom. And it's just a normal instinct for wanting to settle the baby. We can settle the baby by wrapping them, giving them that security, sometimes with a pacifier, a dummy that has that sucking reflex. So settling is normal for the baby. Some babies will settle straight away after a feed, others do need a little bit more help. So we've got tips for settling, and the first one is relaxation, just holding the baby, singing to them, talking to them, just really trying to help them to relax, especially if they've had a bit of a crying session. It's really nice to get them back into that relaxed state. Massaging is good. You would have heard a lot on the media and even at the expo about massaging, the different techniques. But there's so much, you don't have to do a whole body massage. It's sometimes babies like their feet massage, sometimes their back. Or just with this one here, we've just got the upper chest being massaged. Just make sure that it's nice, rhythmic, slow massage and just really bringing the pace down so the baby can relax. So we've got tips for settling, relax, massage and calmness. Now if you're calm around your baby, that will go through so the baby picks up those vibes. So even in your speech with the baby, start talking a little bit slower. All your movements with the baby, make them a little bit slower. So if you're stroking the baby's back or something, just slow that down and just really start to calm them. Another good one is sometimes when you calm the baby, is just to stroke them between their eyebrows. And that just lets their eyelids start to droop, and that can sometimes help them settle down. This dad here, he's nice and relaxed, he's calm, he's reading the newspaper, something he wants to do. The baby is resting on his shoulder, nestling in, and it's calmed the baby down and the baby's fallen asleep. You don't have to always put the baby to bed to calm the baby down. Is your baby sleepy? And we've got ways of knowing, because sometimes you get them up, you feed them and say, oh, is it time for bed yet? Because you know that babies do sleep a lot. So just take a look at the baby and say, does the baby look sleepy? Rather than read books and things like that, just look at your baby, because you know your baby, you've been with them 24/7. This baby here is yawning, starting to give you the signs, the cues that it's starting to be sleepy. So is there a grimace or a frown? When babies are starting to get sleepy, they're not as comfortable as they once were, and they screw up their face, they frown, and they're trying to give you a visual message that they're not happy. So is the baby restless? When they're getting tired, they're no longer content just to lie there. Their legs and their arms go, and they're just starting to wiggle a little bit. They're just wanting to settle down, and it's you as the parent can help them to settle down. So helping your baby to sleep. These tips that I'm giving you are to add to your collection that you would have collected through life and through dealing with other people's children. Even at the expo, you've got some great people here that can give you advice. So these are other tools for your tool bag that you can use. So make sure the baby's got a full tummy, because sometimes the baby might not have fed well and they won't want to go to sleep. I've got an example here, because a lot of babies feed quite frequently, every 2 to 3 hours. This here is the size of a newborn baby's tummy. And when that first milk comes in, that colostrum comes in, that's all they need. And if you were putting petrol in your car, you would find that that petrol's not going to go very far. And that is why the baby needs to be fed fairly frequently. So in those first few days from birth, the baby needs to be fed quite frequently. But after a while, for day 3, that's the size of the baby's stomach. So you can see that it's starting to grow. They're getting more fuel in the tank to let them last a little bit longer between feeds. So just be aware when you're getting up in the night and things like that, that the reservoir has been becoming empty. So if the baby is put to sleep on a full tummy, it's going to last that little bit longer. This one here has obviously had a full tummy. A nice relaxing bath. You might, babies are in an amniotic fluid during the pregnancy or their gestation, so it's nice they're familiar with all the fluid, and being in a bath, it helps them to connect, to calm down. So have the water so it's not too hot, not too cold, just the right temperature so that they can feel very secure. And testing the water on a sensitive part of your skin is a good idea to see if it's too hot or too cold. Wrapping and swaddling, you would have heard the benefits of that, but just to refresh your memories, babies have a startle reflex reaction. It's a moro reflex, which is a natural reaction if they hear a loud noise or a cough and or a sudden bang, or they can their arms and their legs fly open and they come back, and if they're just drifting off to sleep, that can wake them up. But if you swaddle them or wrap them in a fabric that's fairly light, an open weave, a natural fibre, so they don't overheat, it's really good to, they can still have that reflex action but not wake themselves up. So that's what we like to do when we're wrapping. We're mimicking what they once had in the womb. So at the moment when babies are being carried around in the uterus, they can move around quite freely, but they can't fling their arms too wide and that. And so we're just trying to mimic that nice cocoon, giving them reassurance of wrapping. So here there's different ways of wrapping, and I don't think there's any wrong way, as long as the baby has movement for their feet and hands. And sometimes babies just like a firmer wrap across their chest, and their legs don't need to be so much, but your baby will let you know what helps them to settle. Check the environment. You know, is it loud? Is there a lot of noise? Is it too hot? Too cold, noisy? So just think about the environment that you're putting your baby to sleep in. Soft music is a good one. It also helps us to get into that rhythm of maybe in utero they've heard the music that you've been listening to, and that can help them. But it doesn't have to be music as such, or a constant sound is good, like an exhaust fan or dishwasher or washing machine. That constant sound often will get them back into the rhythm of sleep. And even leaning down into the ear and just so that shh, shh, shh sound can really settle them, because it's something that they, in the womb, they can hear that blood going through the mother's veins, and that does settle. So babies have sleep cycles. They have a deep and a light cycle, and when we're trying to get babies into routine, we're trying to get them into that deep cycle overnight, but the lighter cycle during the day. So for the daytime, you can put your baby to bed in maybe a light, airy room, and that they can hear the household noises all around, so they're not going into that deeper sleep as much. And then for the nighttime sleep, put them in a quieter room, a darkened room, and when you get up to feed your baby or change your baby's nappy in the night, very little stimulation. Just just acknowledge them and just do what you have to do, and then just feed them and then pop them back to bed. During the day, you can have more stimulation to keep them more awake. So wakefulness. At the very beginning, it's not very much that the baby is awake and alert. So as the baby grows, you'll have more of the time. But they have senses that they're very aware of. They like to look around to see. The first persons they like to look at is your face, the mother or father's face, and they stare at the face really closely. And you'll see them, they'll concentrate, and then they'll have to look away because it's too much, and they regain focus and they'll look back. So they can only focus for a short amount of time right at the beginning. But just even watching the sunlight on the trees or something like that is something that they really enjoy. Here, the sound of the mother's voice is so important for them. So just talking to your baby, singing to your baby. I always like to, the time when a baby's born and you put the baby on the mother's chest, and then the other day the dad comes in and he starts talking, and the baby just turned his head to this familiar voice, and it was just so beautiful to see. So hearing, feel, they love to feel the textures. The first thing they do when they're born, they're skin to skin, they start to feel the mother's breast, and they're looking for the nipple to try and get that nipple to be erect so that they can start feeding. Smell. Once again, that skin to skin time when the baby comes, just being born, onto the mother's chest, that baby's covered with amniotic fluid. So that has a very calming effect on the baby. So when the baby's on the mother's chest, the chest is covered with amniotic fluid, and it helps to settle the baby, and they want to start feeding within 1 or 2 hours. So that first amniotic smell is what they use to, and then of course the colostrum and the mother's milk. So those smells are very important, and their nostrils are very sensitive to all the smells around. So just be mindful of what you wear, you know, whether like perfumes and deodorant and hand cream. Maybe just be mindful that it's not too strong on the baby, because it may give them a confusion of what they should be doing. Stimulation is always good, just talking and playing, and just before bedtime, of course, just make sure they're not overstimulated to get them into that routine. So, any questions on anything I've raised, or happy? Okay, thank you very much.